Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll pick up from where we left off in the last video and begin looking at how to format and style our charts and graphs in Excel. Okay, and in the last one, we left off by creating our pie chart. We mentioned a couple of different things that we could do to make it look more visually appealing, as well as easier to read and interpret. The first thing we'll do, like we looked at in the last lecture, is to change our chart title. To edit our existing title, we can just select it and then type in the title that we want. So I'll call this one Sales by Category. And perfect. There may, however, be some cases where you want to remove your chart title. And to do this, we can either select our title element and hit delete, or alternatively, we could go to our Add Elements button. And this is just the little green plus symbol that we used last time. And then from within here, we can navigate to our chart title and deselect it. And of course, if our chart doesn't have a title, we can come in here and add it in by ticking this option. Next, we'll have a look at the various chart elements available. We've already had a brief look at this menu in the last lecture when we looked at adding in our chart titles and axis labels. But there's also lots of other elements to look at as well. To start with, we'll add in some data labels to our pie chart so that we can see the actual value of sales for each product instead of just having the proportion. We'll select our chart, and then off to the right we have these three different squares. The top one is the little green plus that we mentioned, and this is how we access our chart elements menu. The pie chart only has three chart elements available: the title, the data labels, and then the legend. To enable our data labels, all we have to do is click in the box and select them. Off to the right of this, we also have a little arrow, and if we click into this, we get some different options for how we want to position our data labels. So you could put them in the center, inside or outside of our chart, allow Excel to determine the best fit, or even have a callout. I'll leave my chart here with the callout option selected. And now, if we look back at our pie chart, we can see that we've now added in data callouts for each slice. The chart elements available for pie charts are quite limited, so we'll quickly create a new column chart within this worksheet here, so that we're better able to explore some of the other chart element options. We've already had a look with the axis and chart title elements, as well as now the data labels option, but there are a few more to look at here. And the main ones of these are the data table, which will just add in the table of data used for the chart in a table just below the visualization. Error bars, which add in a small visual indicator, which provides an overview of the variability of our data, and you can see this up here at the top of our columns. Then we have grid lines, which we can simply toggle to remove the grid lines from our chart. The legend, which as the name suggests, we can use to toggle the visibility of our legend. For datasets such as this, where we just have one set of numbers, the legend isn't too helpful, but if we went back to our line chart, where we had multiple different lines for the sales, expenses and profit, then it's essential to have a legend to help differentiate between what each line represents. And then finally, we have the trend line, and this just shows us the general trend of our data. So is it increasing or is it decreasing? In our case, the trend line wouldn't be that helpful because they're only really much use when the data that we're looking at is ordered, so such as time series data, where we have data for different months or different days or so on. With our data set here, as each item is just a different product, we can't really look at the trending data because it's just sales for different products. If the data was sales over a time period, we'd be able to pick out the overall trend over the specified time period. And also, very quickly, just to mention here, at the top we have our axes option, and that just either enables or completely disables our axes. Moving on, underneath our chart elements button, we have our chart styles. Within here, we can select a number of different styles for our charts to change their visual appearance. So we can modify either the overall style of the chart here with a few templates, or within our colors tab at the top, we can make changes to just the colors. The last icon in our sidebar is the filter button, and this operates similarly to the filtering options we've looked at previously, and it allows us to modify the data that is displayed on the chart. For instance, if you wanted to exclude certain data points, let's say our first two products, so pens and pencils, and focus solely in on the rubbers, paper, and stencils, we can simply deselect these items from within this menu. This action then filters out the data points without the need to adjust the chart range manually by dragging the selection handles, and therefore is a very convenient way to quickly hide or show data as required. All of the options and features that we've looked at so far in this lecture can also be found up here in our Chart Design tab. In order for this tab to be visible, we first need to have selected a chart from within our workbook, and with a chart selected, we'll get both the Chart Design and Format tabs up here at the top. So, as mentioned, many of the options that we've looked at are also available on this particular ribbon. We have all of our chart element controls over here in our chart layouts group, the different styles and colours available here in the middle, and then off to the right we have the ability to either switch the row and column of the chart, select a different data, change the chart type as we looked at before, and also move the chart. So again, it really comes down to your personal preference as to which option you choose. Within the Format tab, we get access to some more detailed customization options for our chart. Here, we can fine-tune aspects such as the colours, borders, fonts, and effects to make our chart more visually appealing. For instance, we could select our title and then change our background or the font colour. Additionally, we could also select our columns and then change the colour of these too. So either the fill or the outline, and so on. The final thing I'd like to show you in this lecture is some of the more advanced chart options. So far, we've covered things like how to modify the appearance and styling of our chart, but there may also be times when you want to modify how the chart presents the data itself. For instance, if we look at our column chart here, we may want to adjust the scale or increments of our y-axis. To make this change, all we need to do is double-click and select the y-axis values, and on the right here, that will bring up our Format menu. From within here, we have a variety of different options, like modifying the colour, applying effects like glow, shadow, and 3D, changing the alignment, but more relevant to what we need, our final option allows us to adjust our axis options. Our main two categories within here are the bounds and units. The bounds let us dictate our start and stop values for the axis. So here we currently have a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 40,000, and this is reflected over here in our chart. If we changed our maximum in here to be 100,000, our chart would then update to reflect this, and now our columns within the chart occupy a proportionally smaller space, reflecting the larger y-axis. Similarly, we could also change our minimum value to start at 5,000, for instance. But I'll just put these back to what Excel recommends by clicking on the Reset option over here to the right. And next, we can change our units, and these are just the intervals between each of the lines on our chart. Currently, our chart has a major step of 5,000 and a minor step of 1,000, resulting in our main lines we can see here progressing in increments of 5,000. If we were to increase this number to, let's say, 10,000, we would lose some granularity and detail on our chart as we get less information between steps. But on the flip side of this, if we make our number too small, so let's try 1,000, then the axis becomes very cluttered and obscures the values as well as negatively affecting the overall readability of the chart. So there's a fine balance to achieve here between the granularity and the amount of detail presented, but also with the readability and presentation of our chart. Okay, and that's everything here for our lecture on how to format and style our charts in Excel. In the next video, we'll have a look at some of the more advanced chart types in Excel, how to create them, and some good examples of when to use them. If you've got any questions, then please feel free to leave them down in the Q&A below, and again, I'll get back to you. So I'll see you in the next lecture.